For more than a decade, one question has followed Paris Jackson almost everywhere she goes. It has appeared in newspaper headlines, celebrity magazines, television specials, online forums, and social media posts viewed by millions of people around the world. Who is Paris Jackson's real father? It is a question that has generated endless speculation, countless theories, and years of public debate. Yet despite all the noise surrounding the topic, Paris herself has consistently offered the same answer. To understand why this story continues to capture public attention, we need to go back to the beginning. Paris Jackson was born into one of the most famous families on earth. Her father, Michael Jackson, was not just a successful singer. He was a global phenomenon. His music broke records, his performances inspired generations, and his influence transformed popular culture forever. By the time Paris was born in 1998, Michael Jackson had already become one of the most recognizable people in history. Every move he made attracted attention. Every relationship became front-page news. Every aspect of his personal life was analyzed by the media. That intense scrutiny would eventually become a major part of Paris's story. The controversy surrounding Paris's identity began long before she was old enough to understand it. In 1996, Michael Jackson married Debbie Rowe, a dermatology nurse from Beverly Hills who had known him for several years. Unlike most celebrity marriages, theirs was extremely private. There were no highly publicized romantic moments, no major media campaigns celebrating the relationship, and very little information available to the public. Because of that secrecy, many people were surprised when the couple announced they were expecting a child. In 1997, their son Prince Jackson was born. 1 year later, Paris Jackson entered the world. To Michael, becoming a father appeared to be one of the happiest moments of his life. Friends and associates frequently described how dedicated he was to his children. Despite his enormous fame, he reportedly wanted his children to experience as normal a childhood as possible. That is one reason he often covered their faces during public appearances. Critics questioned the decision at the time, but Michael maintained that he was simply trying to protect his children from relentless media attention. For a while, the arrangement seemed to work. The children remained largely out of the spotlight, and Michael focused on raising them. However, the public's curiosity never completely disappeared. Many people noticed that Paris looked very different from what they expected. She had blonde hair, blue eyes, and fair skin. As a result, rumors slowly began circulating about her biological background. At first, those rumors remained relatively small. But everything changed in 2009. When Michael Jackson died unexpectedly at the age of 50, the world entered a period of collective mourning. Millions of fans paid tribute to him. News organizations dedicated countless hours to remembering his life and achievements. Yet alongside the tributes came renewed interest in his personal affairs. Questions that had once remained in the background suddenly became major headlines. Within weeks of Michael's death, Debbie Rowe gave interviews that reignited public curiosity. Some of her comments suggested that her relationship with Michael had been unconventional. She described aspects of their marriage in ways that surprised many people. Almost immediately, tabloids began publishing dramatic stories. Television programs invited experts and commentators to discuss the situation. Social media users started sharing theories of their own. The speculation quickly grew beyond Debbie Rowe's comments. Soon, another name entered the conversation. Mark Lester, a British actor and longtime friend of Michael Jackson, publicly suggested that he might have been involved in helping Michael become a father. Lester claimed he had once donated sperm and believed there was a possibility he could be biologically related to Michael's children. His statements generated international headlines. Reporters compared photographs.
Online discussion exploded.
Fans debated the issue endlessly. Yet despite the attention, no definitive evidence emerged. Then another individual became connected to the controversy. Dr. Arnold Klein, Michael Jackson's longtime dermatologist, also found himself at the center of speculation. Because Debbie Rowe worked at his clinic and because of his close relationship with Michael, many people began questioning whether he could somehow be connected to the children's biological origins. When interviewed, Klein denied being the father to the best of his knowledge. However, his carefully worded responses only fueled further speculation. Over time, the situation became increasingly confusing. Different interviews appeared to tell different stories. Some claims were later modified. Others were partially withdrawn. New rumors emerged while old rumors continued circulating. Eventually, the truth became difficult to separate from speculation. But while the media focused on sensational headlines, there was another side to the story that often went unnoticed. Paris Jackson was growing up. She was just 11 years old when her father died. Imagine losing your parent at such a young age while the entire world watches. Now imagine that, at the same time, strangers everywhere are debating whether that parent was really your parent at all. That was the reality Paris faced. As she entered her teenage years, she encountered challenges far beyond what most people experience. Not only was she grieving the loss of her father, but she was also dealing with constant public scrutiny. Every photograph became evidence in someone else's theory. Every interview became material for speculation. Every social media post was analyzed for hidden meaning. People who had never met Paris felt comfortable making assumptions about her identity based entirely on her appearance. The pressure was enormous. Years later, Paris spoke openly about some of the personal struggles she faced during her youth. She discussed mental health challenges, difficult experiences, and the emotional impact of growing up in the spotlight. Many observers believe that the constant scrutiny surrounding her identity only added to those difficulties. Yet despite everything she endured, Paris gradually began building her own life. Instead of allowing herself to be defined solely by her father's legacy, she pursued her own creative ambitions. She entered the music industry as a singer and songwriter. She established herself as a model. She appeared in television and film projects. Little by little, she created an identity independent of the endless speculation that had followed her since childhood. Still, the rumors refused to disappear completely. Every few years, a new article would emerge. A social media post would go viral. An old interview would resurface. And the same questions would return. Eventually, Paris decided to address the controversy directly. In one of her most discussed interviews, she made her position absolutely clear. Michael Jackson was her father, not maybe, not possibly, not according to some reports. Her father. For Paris, the issue was never primarily about DNA tests or scientific debates. It was about lived experience. Michael was the person who raised her. He was the person who comforted her when she was afraid. He was the person who taught her values. He was the person who shaped her understanding of the world. He was the parent she knew. Paris also spoke about how Michael taught her to appreciate her heritage and be proud of who she was. She explained that her father's guidance played a major role in forming her identity. To her, those experiences mattered more than public speculation. And that perspective raises an important question. What actually makes someone a parent? Is parenthood defined exclusively by biology? Or is it defined by love, responsibility, guidance, and commitment? For many people, the answer is obvious. A parent is the person who shows up, the person who sacrifices, the person who teaches, supports, and protects, the person who remains present throughout life's most important moments. That is the definition Paris appears to embrace. Over the years, she has remained remarkably consistent in that belief. Meanwhile, modern technology introduced a new challenge. As social media expanded, fake stories became easier to spread. Unverified screenshots began appearing online. Alleged DNA reports circulated without credible sources. Fabricated documents attracted millions of views. Some content creators presented speculation as fact simply because controversy generated clicks. The situation became even more complicated with advances in artificial intelligence. Digitally altered images and AI-generated content made it increasingly difficult for many people to distinguish genuine information from fabricated material. Once again, Paris found herself at the center of conversations she had not started. But by then, something had changed. She was no longer the young girl struggling to understand her place in the world. She was an adult with her own voice, career, and identity. Instead of responding to every rumor, she focused on her work. She released music, She modeled for major fashion brands. She built professional relationships. She continued creating art. And through all of it, her message remained consistent. Michael Jackson was her father because he raised her. That simple statement has remained unchanged despite years of media attention. Looking back, it is remarkable how much of the controversy originated from people other than Paris herself. Former associates made claims. Tabloids published theories. Commentators offered opinions. Internet users created speculation. Yet Paris rarely seemed interested in participating in the debate. Instead, she focused on telling her own story. And perhaps that is the most important lesson in this entire situation. For years, the public treated Paris Jackson like a mystery waiting to be solved. But Paris never viewed herself that way. To her, there was no mystery. There was only her life, her experiences, and her relationship with the man she knew as her father. Whether future evidence ever emerges or not, her perspective has remained remarkably steady. She remembers Michael Jackson as the person who loved her, protected her, and helped shape her future. That is the reality she continues to embrace. And after everything she has endured, from grief and public scrutiny to years of relentless speculation, it is difficult to argue that she has not earned the right to define her own story. In the end, the biggest question may not be who Paris Jackson's biological father is. The bigger question may be what truly makes someone family. For Paris Jackson, the answer has never changed. Family is about love. Family is about support. Family is about the people who stand beside you when the world turns against you. And by that definition, Michael Jackson will always be her father.